and welcome to Smaulgld's Moronica for the week ended March 10th, 2018. The week's news that made you scratch your head, cringe, or just say, that's moronic. Let's take a look at some of the moronic stuff we had during the week. Well, this Justin Trudeau again makes the top of This Week in Smaulgld's Moronica. He was complaining that the U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs would make no sense. Now, if you remember, this was just last week.
We import more steel than the Americans import. We have a significant trade surplus. The Americans have a significant trade surplus with us on steel, which means we buy steel from them, they buy steel from us.
Stop making sense, Justin Trudeau. What do you know, Mr. Trudeau, about anything regarding U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs? Fighting gun control is like freedom riders, so says Dopra. She weighs in on this latest March for Our Lives march that's going to happen on Washington to protest. I guess it's the NRA. And Jack, our friend who runs Twitter, he jumped into and he did the same as Oprah did, or Dopra. He's going to donate $500,000 to this March for Their Lives, and Dopra is going to do the same. Now, what I found moronic was Oprah saying, George and Amal, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm joining forces with you, and I will match your $500,000 donation to March for Our Lives. And here's where it gets moronic. I don't care if she wants to throw money at stupid causes, let her go ahead. But she says, these inspiring young people remind me of the freedom riders of the 60s who also said, we've had enough and our voices will be heard. Now, the reason that is completely moronic is she's throwing around the term freedom riders, and that's an insult to the freedom riders. The freedom riders were protesting Southern policies of strict segregation in the South in the time of the freedom riders. They had absolutely segregated, this is where you had Rosa Parks, they had segregated the buses, and the blacks were on one bus, and the whites were on the other. They were segregated in certain parts of the bus. Now, the Supreme Court had ruled twice that this was a violation. Now, they should have ruled it was a violation of the 14th Amendment, but they didn't. They ruled that it was a violation of the Interstate Commerce Clause or Interstate Commerce Act, which said that you can't have this segregation or discrimination. But the South went ahead and did it anyway. Now, the freedom riders were protesting basically a state action which was pervasive, meaning that this was happening all through the South and it was being enforced as a matter of policy, the discrimination and the segregation by the South. What the March for Our Lives is protesting is a private company, our organization, the NRA, and they're protesting they're basically protesting the Second Amendment. So it's the exact opposite of what the freedom riders are fighting for. There is not an organization that is out to shoot children and is organized and using the state to do it. There's a Second Amendment which allows law-abiding people to own firearms. The NRA has nothing to do with lunatics who buy guns. The FBI knows that they have guns, knows that they've threatened other people, posts on Facebook that the guy wants to be a professional school shooter, and then law enforcement does nothing about it, and somehow they're going to march on Washington like freedom riders to protest the NRA. And these guys, these morons, are donating money so that kids can go there, as if the kids are getting the impression that somehow protesting the NRA is going to prevent them from getting shot. No, better law enforcement is going to prevent them from getting shot. Comparing this march to the Freedom Riders, she's earned her name Dopra, at least for this week. Now, see, this hypocrisy on this gun stuff is endemic. So Hollywood, totally against everything. They're against guns, the NRA. And yet they've got 500 armed officers at their Oscars show. To a normal person, you could say, well, that's moronic. How can you be for gun control? You're basically saying that the celebrities are entitled to have armed security. But with respect to schools, the only way we can make a school safe is by going after the NRA. Maybe not having armed officers forget arming the teachers. Why don't schools get some type of armed protection that the Oscars get? Well, then this gets to an even higher level of Moronica. Experts say, this is NPR. Now, this is taxpayer money reporting this. This is moronic. What they're saying is that here's how do you prevent the next school shooting. And their rationale is basically, don't harden the schools. Make them softer by improving social and emotional health. First of all, let's just take a look at the worst school killing in history. Sandy Hook, a elementary school, 6 and 7-year-old kids. I don't think that shooting could have been prevented by making the schools softer and improving their social and emotional health. They were little kids. They probably didn't have a harsh environment. And by the way, the person who did the killing, he wasn't a student in the school. It's not like a 6 or 7-year-old who had been bullied in the school returned to the school and started shooting everyone. No, the guy who did it was a 20-year-old. He wasn't a pupil at the school. He grew up in New Hampshire. He had nothing to do with being part of that school. So these experts are saying, this is how we prevent the next school shooting. Well, it wouldn't have prevented Adam Lanza, the 20-year-old killer, from doing this. So I just don't understand how people can be so stupid to think that they have the answer and marching on Washington and donating money to go against the NRA is somehow going to prevent a shooting. I think the Oscars have it right. No one gets shot at the Oscars. Why? 500 officers on hand. Let's move on. Now here's stupidity. You see Justin Trudeau not understanding the tariffs, and a lot of people, there's good debate, there's good intelligent debate on tariffs, whether they're good, they're bad, in general, good in this circumstance, not in this circumstance, good temporarily, good permanent, who knows? That's a long economic debate that one can have. But when they say that the struggling U.S. steel mills fear hammer blows to jobs because of Trump's planned tariffs could harm the workers he aims to protect, that's moronic. Because the idea of a tariff, whether it's good or bad in the aggregate, is always going to help the industry. If you're going to protect the steel industry by preventing less expensive steel from coming into the country, well, of course, that industry is going to benefit. And it's obvious, and we just saw during the week, U.S. Steel restarting Granite City Works in Illinois because of the tariffs. They're going to hire 500 workers. This is a steel mill that had been closed a few years back, and now they're going to restart it up. Of course, this is going to help the steel industry. Whether it's a good thing overall, that's a different issue. But to try to argue that it's bad for the steel industry in the United States and they're going to lose jobs, well, that is moronic. Last week, we had Bill Gates trying to tell us that Bitcoin was a killer and had directly been involved in killing people because people use Bitcoin to buy opioids. Well, of course, we pointed out last week how moronic that is because you can buy opioids with dollars, and therefore you make using the same moronic line of reasoning. You can say dollars kill people. You can also say Windows operating systems kill people because people go online, they check their Bitcoin wallets using Windows, so Bill Gates is a killer also. But this line of Moronica is not just particular to Bill Gates, as a Smaulgld subscriber Vijay pointed out to us that Lindsey Graham had mentioned a couple of years back that our nation is at war. This was with respect to, we had a mass shooting in Orlando, and they wanted to get at the phone that the mass shooter had to get some information. And Lindsey Graham said, our nation's at war, and this iPhone was used to kill Americans. Protect our homeland, not terrorists. Please cooperate with the FBI. Now, basically, he was saying the iPhone was used to kill Americans. Again, Moronica, no. The lunatic killed Americans. The iPhone had nothing to do with it. Now, here's a case of individual Moronica. This guy here, well, I'm going to let you watch. He flicks a cigarette into a zoo in Indonesia. Now, these orangutans are beautiful creatures. And, well, watch what happens next with the orangutan. There's big outrage over this. And he picks up the cigarette and starts smoking it. What the? Oh, cool. Clicks off that ash pretty nicely. And then takes another drag. Now, doesn't this orangutan know that he's smoking in a no-smoking zone? I mean, where is the outrage? I mean, this guy here, he should be in a lot of trouble, but he's not. That's what happens when you let orangutans smoke. Now, kidding, of course, that is animal abuse, and there was a big outrage over it, but this one, you're not going to be able to see because they took it down. This was ABC. This is beyond Moronica. This was abuse. They showed a picture of a dog. Nice look. I think it might have been a golden retriever. It was a dog of about that size. And there was a bunch of fireworks going off around him. And he was kind of in the middle of fireworks on the ground, above his head, all around him. And these morons at ABC said, look at this. He's a good boy getting ready to party and join a Chinese New Year celebration. No, he wasn't. He was frightened. He was barking. He wasn't celebrating anything. Fireworks in a dog's ear, that's very harmful. The thing was, the poor dog was petrified. And these morons, and maybe I'm glad I can't show. They did take it down. But they had characterized this as a good boy ready to party and join a Chinese celebration. No, the dog was terrified. Now, this is Moronica. I'm not going to give you the full details here, but this guy here, Sam Nunberg, you're going to have to watch this on your own. He was subpoenaed by the Mueller investigation, and he said, like, you know, they're bothering me. Trump didn't collude. Trump did collude. Basically, he had lost his mind on TV, but he called in to Fox. He called into CNN. He called into MS. He called into all these stations. He got interviews, and he's asking Jake Tapper for legal advice. He says, "Look, I got this subpoena. They wanted my emails from that I sent to Bannon. That I had conversations with Roger Stone." He's like, "What should I do? I don't think I should send these in." And Jack, the guy, said, "Well, I would send them in. I mean, you're under subpoena." So this was Moronica. I mean, this guy looked like he was off his rocker. And then he went on with Aaron Burnett. And Aaron Burnett's like, "You smell like you've been drinking." He's like, "No, I haven't been drinking." She's like, "You've been doing any other drugs?" He's like, "No." And then he says, "Oh, just my antidepressants." So take a look at this. But there's some great quotes in here. And the guy, they're right here. They are. Go to this link here. It's on Breitbart. They had the full transcripts of the things that he was saying. But I don't know if it's Moronica. It was just a sad case of a guy breaking down. Donald Trump. Some of my best friends are globalists. Well, our friend Cohn left as the financial advisor, the economic advisor to Trump over the tariffs. I guess he didn't think they were a good thing. And of course, tariffs are definitely a nationalist thing. They go against global free trade. And Trump repeatedly, I think he tweeted, but he also, during the televised cabinet meeting, said, "We really want to thank him. We think he did a good job. I still like him, even though he's a globalist." There it is. He's been terrific. He may be a globalist, but I still like him. He is seriously a globalist. There's no question. But you know, in his own way, he's a nationalist because he loves our country. So before we leave, we're still lingering with this fighting the Russian trolls. So supposedly the State Department was granted $120 million to fight Russian meddling, and they haven't spent anything. And this, of course, is an outrage, according to the New York Times. I think they're saving that money for the wall. I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, Obama said the Putin not told him to cut it out. Well, I guess that didn't work, so you've got to spend $120 million to fight Russian meddling in our elections. Now, I was thinking that this is moronic. All this nonsense about Russian trolls interfering with our democracy, that the people in charge, the State Department, the CIA, they got it all wrong. This isn't a big deal. Well, apparently trolling and joking to the CIA and is a big deal. The CIA actually has I'll show you this document. They have a document that was recently declassified that had in it Soviet jokes. I mean, these were jokes that could be used as a weapon. And Ronald Reagan used to tell them. So I guess when he got his CIA briefings, he must have loved that he got the Soviet jokes as part of his intelligence briefing, and then he would use these jokes. I thought he just made them up, but apparently they had people probably writing these jokes down. Reminds me of that Monty Python skit where they had the world's most dangerous joke to use as a weapon, and they go to read it and they die of laughter from telling it. But here actually is, I'll leave a link to this. The CIA from their reading room recently declassified about 3 or 4 years ago. Just basic, well, doesn't look like it's going to work. The Soviet jokes about the one famous one is where the two people are talking, the Russian and the American, and the American is saying, look, we have freedom in this country. You know, I can go outside the White House and I can yell, Ronald Reagan, I don't like the way you're doing your job. And the Russian says, there's nothing. We can do the same thing in Soviet Union. And he says, oh, you can? How do you do that? He goes, it says, I can go outside of Gorbachev's office. I can yell and scream. I don't like the way Ronald Reagan is doing his job. And these kind of jokes, I don't know if they're national security, but there they are. Hat tip again to VJ on that one. Now here's another one with our democracy. So Italy had an election, and surprise, surprise, all the anti-establishment Italian parties won, five-star movement, and so on. But here's Samantha Power. Italy joins a long list of elections influenced by Russia. Sputnik will do what Sputnik does. The question is, what are our democracies going to do about it? Yeah, what are they going to do about it? Well, maybe they can get the CIA to write some better jokes. I don't know. It's just pure moronic. And I say, I thought our dear leader had already told Putin, cut it out. Save our democracy from Russian trolls. Bernie, there's a call. There he is. What's going to happen with this country? The people are colluding with the Russians. Well, they're saying that Bernie may have colluded with the Australian Labour Party, so they're going to investigate him, see what happens. And there's Marine Le Pen charged over Islamic State tweets. So you see this Twitter stuff and these jokes, they're pretty big deal. You can't just say stuff, and this is what kills people. Jokes and tweets, not guns and bombs. Thank you very much for listening.